First Contact and Ultimatum. The first sign of humanity's greatest challenge came not with a bang, but with silence. On a quiet Tuesday morning in October, every satellite in Earth's orbit suddenly went dark. Global communications stumbled, and for 17 terrifying minutes, the world held its breath. When the satellites came back online, they revealed a sight that would forever change human history: thousands of obsidian ships, arranged in perfect geometric formations above Earth's atmosphere. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence, making them look like a constellation of artificial stars that had somehow materialized in broad daylight. Admiral Zarin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion Ascendant, his tall, imposing figure reflected in the viewport's polished surface. His ceremonial armor, adorned with the badges of 1,000 conquered worlds, caught the starlight as he surveyed the blue-green planet below. Earth looked so fragile from this distance, like a precious gemstone waiting to be claimed for the Empire's collection. "Prepare the broadcast," Zarin commanded, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of conquest. "Let them see the face of their new masters." Within moments, his image was projected across every screen on Earth: smartphones, televisions, computers, billboards, all hijacked simultaneously by the Empire's superior technology. His face, pale and angular, appeared stern yet calm as he addressed humanity for the first time. "People of Earth," he began, his voice resonating with mechanical precision, "rejoice, for you are to be incorporated into the Galactic Empire. Our fleet above your skies is impervious, our technology insurmountable. Resistance is futile. Surrender now, and your species will be spared unnecessary suffering. Defy us, and your world will burn." In a fortified bunker deep beneath the Appalachian Mountains, Colonel Mike Ronalds watched the broadcast with growing fury. The bunker, officially designated as Strategic Command Center Echo, was crowded with Earth's remaining military leaders, their uniforms a mismatched collection from various nations. The contrast between their worn appearance and the Empire's pristine order was stark. Ronalds was a rugged man in his late 40s, his face weathered by years of combat and loss. He'd served in conflicts across the globe, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. As the alien transmission ended, he turned to face the room full of grim-faced officers. "They think we're beaten," he said, his gravelly voice carrying the weight of determination. "Just like every other planet they've steamrolled. But they've never faced Earth. They've never faced us." General Harris, a grizzled veteran of Earth's many internal conflicts, stepped forward. "What chance do we have, Colonel? You saw their ships. We've already lost half our orbital defense platforms, and our most powerful weapons barely scratched their shields." "Every empire has a weakness," Ronalds replied, his dark eyes burning with conviction. "I refuse to believe theirs is any different. We just have to find it." Lieutenant Alex Edwards, a younger officer with a sharp tactical mind, spoke up from his position near the holographic display. "Sir, with respect, even if we find a weakness, our resources are stretched thin. We're fighting with scraps compared to their arsenal." Ronald's lips curved into a determined smirk. "Then we'll turn those scraps into a spear sharp enough to pierce their pride." As the meeting continued, the mood shifted from despair to grim determination. Plans were drawn, resources inventoried, and teams dispatched to analyze every piece of data Earth's defenders had managed to gather during the Empire's initial arrival. Meanwhile, aboard the Dominion Ascendant, Commander Vel approached Admiral Zarin cautiously. "Admiral, do you not find it curious that these humans haven't surrendered outright? Most species are broken by our arrival alone." Zarin dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "Curious, perhaps, but irrelevant. These primitives cling to hope like insects clinging to a burning leaf. Their struggle is inconsequential. But Vel persisted, their resourcefulness is. Enough." Zarin snapped, his icy gaze silencing further protest. "I have seen their kind before, desperate, fractured, and blind to the futility of their defiance. They will fall, just as all others before them have fallen. Back on Earth, the first signs of global unity began to emerge. Ancient rivalries were set aside as humanity faced its first truly external threat. Military resources were pooled, scientific knowledge shared, and industrial capacity redirected toward defense. Dr. Sarah Chen, head of the newly formed Global Defense Research Initiative, presented her findings to the Emergency Council. The Empire's technology operates on principles we barely understand, she explained, pointing to analysis of debris from their initial skirmishes. But there's something interesting about their shield frequencies. Ronalds leaned forward. Interesting how? They're not static. They adapt and shift in response to attacks. It's why our conventional weapons can't penetrate them. But this adaptation, it follows patterns. If we could understand these patterns, then we might find a way through, Ronalds finished. How long? Dr. Chen shook her head. Weeks, maybe months to fully understand it. And that's assuming they don't change their shield configurations. We don't have months, General Harris interjected. Intelligence suggests they're preparing for a full-scale invasion within days. Ronald stood, his decision made. Then we do what humanity does best, we adapt, we improvise, and we overcome. Dr. Chen, you have 48 hours to give us something we can use. Even a theory is better than nothing. As the meeting dispersed, Ronalds found himself alone in the command center, staring at the global tactical display. Red icons showing Empire ships filled the screen, surrounding Earth like a noose waiting to tighten. Lieutenant Edwards approached quietly. Colonel, the first refugee reports are coming in from coastal cities. The Empire's show of force has people panicking. Let them see our strength, Ronalds replied. Get me a direct line to every remaining broadcast station. It's time humanity heard a different kind of message. Hours later, Ronald's face appeared on screens worldwide. Unlike the Empire's cold, superior broadcast, his message was raw and human. People of Earth, he began, his voice steady and determined, today we face the greatest threat in human history. The Galactic Empire believes we will bow before their superior technology, that we will surrender our freedom for the promise of survival. They are wrong. He paused, letting his words sink in. Throughout our history, humanity has faced countless challenges. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and our own destructive nature. Each time we've emerged stronger, more united, more determined. The Empire sees our divisions and thinks us weak. They don't understand that our differences, our conflicts, our struggles have forged us into something unique in this galaxy. A species that refuses to submit, that finds strength in diversity, and that will never stop fighting for its right to exist freely. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the globe, people began to organize. Underground resistance networks formed, scientists shared research across borders, and military forces coordinated their efforts with unprecedented cooperation. Dr. Chen's team worked tirelessly, analyzing every piece of Empire technology they could salvage. In hidden facilities around the world, engineers and scientists collaborated on potential countermeasures. The Empire's confidence in their technology had made them careless, allowing human forces to recover fragments of their equipment from initial skirmishes. As the 48-hour deadline approached, Dr. Chen made a breakthrough. She burst into the command center, her eyes wide with excitement. Colonel, we found something. The Empire's shields, they're not impervious. They're arrogant. Ronalds gathered the senior staff as Dr. Chen explained her discovery. The Empire's shield technology relied on predictive algorithms to adjust to threats. But these predictions were based on their experiences fighting less innovative species. They've never encountered an opponent that could adapt as quickly as we can, Dr. Chen explained. Their shields are designed to counter consistent, predictable attacks. But if we could vary our assault patterns, using multiple types of weapons in rapid succession, we might overwhelm their prediction systems, Ronalds finished. How quickly can we implement this? We've already modified some anti-aircraft platforms for testing. But Colonel, this is still theoretical. We haven't had time for proper trials. Ronalds nodded grimly. Sometimes theory is all we get. Prepare for a test run. We need to prove this works before we can implement it on a larger scale. As Earth prepared for its first real strike against the Empire, Admiral Zarin remained confident in his position. Looking down at the planet from his command bridge, he failed to see the determination building below. Like many before him, he had made the crucial mistake of underestimating humanity's greatest strength, its refusal to accept defeat. The stage was set for humanity's first true test against the Empire's might. In hidden bases around the world, modified weapons were prepared. In laboratories and workshops, scientists and engineers worked to refine Dr. Chen's discovery. And in the hearts of every human being, a fire burned, a fire that would soon show the galaxy that Earth would not go quietly into the night. As the sun set on that pivotal day, Ronald stood at a viewport in the underground base, watching the last rays of light fade away. In his hand, he held a worn photograph of his family, taken before the Empire's arrival. "We'll show them," he whispered to himself. "We'll show them what humanity can do." The first part of humanity's greatest battle was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The hidden weakness. Deep within a hidden military research base buried beneath miles of rock in the Sierra Nevada mountains, the hum of outdated machinery mixed with the voices of exhausted engineers and scientists. The facility, hastily converted from an old Cold War bunker, was humanity's last hope for uncovering the secret behind the Galactic Empire's impenetrable shields. Dr. Maya Patel stood before a holographic display, her dark eyes scanning lines of data streaming across multiple screens. At 43, she was one of Earth's leading experts in quantum field theory, though she never imagined her research would be humanity's last line of defense against alien invasion. Beside her, Dr. Sarah Chen reviewed the latest test results from their modified weapons systems. "The shield frequency modulations are unlike anything we've ever seen," Maya muttered, manipulating the hologram with practiced gestures. "It's not just advanced technology, it's like they're operating on a completely different set of physical principles." Sarah nodded, pulling up another dataset. "Look at this pattern though. Every time we hit their shields with our conventional weapons, there's a split-second fluctuation in the energy matrix. It's minimal, but it's there." "Colonel Ronalds?" A young technician interrupted, poking his head through the laboratory door. "You're needed in the command center. We've intercepted something." In the command center, screens displayed a series of encrypted transmissions between Empire ships. Lieutenant Edwards had managed to crack a portion of their communication protocols, providing Earth's defenders with their first real glimpse into enemy operations. "They're planning something big," Edwards explained, highlighting key portions of the decoded messages. "Multiple fleet movements, all coordinating around major population centers. They're not just preparing for invasion, they're setting up for systematic extinction." Ronald studied the data, his jaw tightening. "How long? Based on these patterns?" "For days, maybe 5. The colonel turned to Dr. Chen. "Please tell me you have something." Sarah exchanged glances with Maya before responding. "Maybe. We've identified a potential vulnerability in their shield systems, but exploiting it won't be easy." "Dr. Patel, show them." Maya stepped forward, bringing up a complex simulation on the main display. "Their shields operate on a quantum harmonization principle. They're not just deflecting our attacks, they're phase-shifting them into alternate quantum states. That's why conventional weapons have no effect. But this process isn't perfect." She zoomed in on a particular sequence. "There's a momentary sync point when their shields shift between states. If we could hit them at exactly the right moment with precisely calibrated energy frequencies, we could breach their defenses," Ronalds finished. "In theory," Maya cautioned. "But the timing would have to be perfect, down to the microsecond." And we'd need to modify our existing weapons systems to generate the specific energy signatures required. General Harris, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. How many weapons could we convert? And how quickly? Sarah consulted her tablet. With our current resources and global manufacturing capabilities, maybe 30 platforms in the next 72 hours. But we'd need to coordinate with facilities worldwide, and the Empire's been targeting our major industrial centers. Then we work with what we have, Ronalds decided. Dr. Patel, how confident are you in this theory? Maya met his gaze steadily. Confident enough to bet my life on it. Which, given our situation, is exactly what we're all doing. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Under the cover of electromagnetic interference generators, teams of engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to modify anti-aircraft platforms according to Maya and Sarah's specifications. The work was painstaking, requiring precision adjustments to systems never designed for this kind of operation. In the midst of the preparations, Lieutenant Edwards made another breakthrough in decoding Empire communications. He burst into the research lab, tablet in hand. Dr. Patel. I think you need to see this. The decoded messages revealed something startling. The Empire's ships weren't just coordinating their attacks, they were sharing shield frequencies, automatically adjusting their defenses based on collective combat data. This changes everything, Maya realized, quickly modifying her calculations. If we can disrupt one ship's shields, it could create a cascade effect across their entire network. They're so confident in their technology that they've created a potential single point of failure. Word of the potential breakthrough spread through the resistance network, igniting hope in hearts that had begun to despair. But aboard the Dominion Ascendant, Admiral Zarin remained unaware of the humans' progress, his attention focused on final preparations for the systematic purge of Earth's population. The cleansing protocols are ready, Admiral, Commander Vell reported, though his voice carried a note of uncertainty. But these humans, they're still fighting. Every strike force we've sent to their surface has met significant resistance. Zarin dismissed the concern with practiced indifference. Their resistance is meaningless. They fight because they don't understand the futility of their situation. Once the purge begins, their spirit will break like all the others. But Vell wasn't so sure. Something about these humans worried him, their adaptability, their ruthless determination, their absolute refusal to accept defeat. He had studied the reports from ground forces, noting how human tactics evolved with each engagement, how they learned and adjusted with remarkable speed. Back in the underground facility, the first modified weapon platform was ready for testing. The device was a hybrid of human and salvaged Empire technology, its ugly appearance belying the sophisticated principles at work within. Sarah and Maya worked through the night, fine-tuning the targeting systems and energy modulators. If this works, Sarah said, making a final adjustment, it'll be the first time anyone's breached their shields. We'll prove they're not invincible. The test was conducted in a remote desert location, using a captured Empire drone as the target. Military leaders and scientists gathered in the command center, watching multiple camera feeds as the modified platform powered up. The air crackled with tension and ozone as the weapon charged. Energy signature stable, Maya reported, monitoring the readings. Quantum synchronization at 97%. Target locked. Ronalds gave the order. Fire. The weapon discharged with a sound unlike anything they'd heard before, a deep, resonating pulse that seemed to distort the very air. The drone's shields flared brilliantly, trying to adapt to the attack. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the shields flickered, fluctuated, and collapsed. The follow-up kinetic strike hit the drone directly, destroying it in a spectacular explosion. The command center erupted in cheers, but Maya was already analyzing the data. It worked better than we anticipated. The shield collapse was complete, and the energy feedback signature suggests we could trigger a similar response in larger vessels. How soon can we begin full-scale production? Ronalds asked. We've already transmitted the specifications to manufacturing facilities worldwide, Sarah responded. Teams are standing by to begin modifications as soon as we confirm the test results. But their success hadn't gone unnoticed. Empire sensors had detected the unusual energy signature from the test, though their analysts initially dismissed it as an anomaly. Only Commander Vel, ever cautious, saw the potential significance. Admiral, he reported, our sensors detected an unusual energy discharge from the surface. The signature doesn't match any known human weapons. Zarin examined the report briefly before setting it aside. Their primitive experiments are of no concern. Proceed with the purge preparations. Vel hesitated. Sir, with respect, these humans have shown remarkable adaptability. Perhaps we should. Your concern for these primitives borders on sympathy, Commander, Zarin cut him off coldly. Remember what happened to the last species that dared to challenge the Empire's dominance. Their world now serves as a warning to others, a dead planet orbiting a dying star. In the following days, resistance cells worldwide began modifying their defensive weapons according to the new specifications. The work was dangerous. Empire patrols actively hunted any signs of military activity, but humanity's determination drove them forward. Maya and Sarah worked continuously to refine the process, making it more efficient and easier to implement with limited resources. They knew they wouldn't get a second chance once the Empire realized what they were doing. Colonel Ronalds coordinated with military leaders around the globe, preparing for what would be humanity's first major counteroffensive. The plan was audacious. They would need to strike multiple Empire ships simultaneously, exploiting the linked nature of their shield systems to maximize the damage. We'll only get one shot at this, he told the assembled commanders. Once they realize their shields are vulnerable, they'll adapt. Every modified platform needs to hit its target in the first volley. As the preparations continued, humanity dared to hope. In secret bases and hidden bunkers, resistance fighters trained with the modified weapons. In laboratories and workshops, scientists and engineers worked to produce more units. And in the hearts of every human being, the flame of defiance burned brighter than ever. The Empire had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed that humanity's technological inferiority meant certain defeat. They hadn't understood that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their relentless drive to survive, to adapt, to overcome any obstacle in their path. Maya stood in her lab late one night, looking at a photograph of Earth taken from space before the invasion. The Empire's ships now obscured much of that view, their dark forms casting shadows on the planet below. They think they know everything about us, she said softly, but they don't understand the most important thing: humans don't accept impossible odds. We change them. The stage was set for humanity's first real strike against the Empire. In scattered bases around the world, resistance fighters made final preparations. In orbit, Empire ships continued their ominous patrol, unaware that their supposedly impregnable defenses were about to be challenged. The coming battle would determine not just the fate of Earth, but would shake the very foundations of the Empire's perceived invincibility. Humanity was about to show the galaxy that even the mightiest empire could bleed. Operation Thunderstrike. Dawn broke over the ruins of New York City, its once proud skyline now a jagged shadow of its former glory. In the pale morning light, Empire ships prowled between shattered skyscrapers like predators searching for prey. Below ground, in a repurposed subway station turned Resistance Command Center, Colonel Mike Ronalds studied a holographic map of the eastern seaboard. All teams report ready, Lieutenant Edwards announced, his voice tight with tension. Modified weapons platforms are in position across all target zones. Dr. Patel confirms quantum synchronization is holding steady. Ronalds nodded, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. Operation Thunderstrike, humanity's first coordinated offensive against the Empire, was about to begin. The plan was ambitious: simultaneous attacks on multiple Empire vessels using their modified weapons, exploiting the interconnected nature of the alien shield network. Status of Empire fleet movements. Ronalds asked, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. Exactly as predicted, Edwards replied, highlighting several positions on the map. They're maintaining standard patrol patterns. 3 cruisers over Manhattan, 2 more covering the Jersey coast. Their confidence is working in our favor, they're not even running active scans. Dr. Maya Patel's voice came through the comm system from her position at the primary research facility. Colonel, final diagnostics are complete on all weapons platforms. The quantum frequency modulators are performing within acceptable parameters. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Ronalds took a deep breath, feeling the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. Send the go code. All teams execute on my mark. Across the ruined city, resistance fighters tensed in their hidden positions. The modified anti-aircraft platforms, carefully concealed among the debris, hummed to life. Each team knew they would only get one chance. Once the Empire realized their shields were vulnerable, they would adapt quickly. Control, this is Echo Team in position, Captain Sarah Martinez reported from her station near what was left of Central Park. Her team had spent 3 days setting up their weapon platform, disguising it as part of a collapsed building. Target locked on Cruiser Delta 7. Similar reports came in from other teams positioned around the city. 12 platforms in total, each targeting a specific ship. The timing had to be perfect, their only hope was to overwhelm the Empire's defensive networks before they could respond. Aboard the Dominion Ascendant, Admiral Zarin reviewed reports from the planetary occupation with growing irritation. Despite weeks of showing their overwhelming technological superiority, these humans continued to resist. Small strikes against ground forces, sabotage of resource collection operations, and a stubborn refusal to submit to imperial authority. Commander Vell approached with his usual caution. Admiral, our sensor crews report unusual energy readings from several surface locations. The signatures don't match any known human weapons systems. Before Zarin could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple cruisers were reporting simultaneous attacks unlike anything they'd encountered before. Back on the ground, Ronalds gave the command. All teams, execute. The modified platforms fired in perfect synchronization. The weapons discharged with a distinctive pulse that seemed to distort the very air, each blast carefully calibrated to exploit the quantum vulnerability Dr. Patel had discovered. The Empire ship's shields flared brilliant blue as they attempted to adapt. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, exactly as their tests had predicted, the shields began to fluctuate. The quantum disruption spread through the linked network, creating a cascade of shield failures across multiple vessels. Direct hits confirmed. Edwards shouted, his professional demeanor cracking with excitement. Shield collapse detected on multiple targets. Captain Martinez's voice crackled through the comm control, shields are down on Delta 7. Launching conventional warheads. The follow-up strikes were devastating. Missiles and artillery fire, previously useless against Empire shields, found their marks. The cruiser Delta 7's hull buckled under the assault, secondary explosions blooming across its surface. The massive ship listed heavily, its anti-gravity systems failing, before crashing into the East River in a spectacular explosion. Aboard the Dominion Ascendant, chaos erupted on the bridge. Impossible! Zarin roared, watching as more ships reported critical shield failures. How are they doing this? Our technology is superior in every way. Commander Vell was already analyzing the attack data, his expression grave. Sir, they've found a way to disrupt our shield harmonics. The quantum synchronization network, they're using it against us. Disconnect all ships from the network. Zarin commanded. Switch to independent shield generators. But the damage was already done. 3 cruisers had been destroyed, and 4 more had suffered significant damage before they could isolate their shield systems. For the first time in centuries of imperial conquest, the Empire's fleet had been bloodied. The success of Operation Thunderstrike sent shockwaves through both human and Empire forces. Resistance cells worldwide began launching similar attacks, using the modified weapons to strike Empire ships wherever they could be found. The Empire's aura of invincibility had been shattered. Dr. Patel and her team worked frantically to analyze data from the attacks, knowing the Empire would adapt their defenses. They'll modify their shield frequencies, she explained to Ronalds in a hasty briefing. But now we know it's possible. We can find new vulnerabilities. The Empire's response was swift and brutal. Zarin ordered immediate reprisal strikes against major population centers, but now his ships maintained significant distance from the surface, wary of the humans' new weapons. The change in tactics gave Earth's defenders something precious: time. They're scared, Edwards observed, watching the Empire's ships retreat to higher orbits. For the first time, they're actually worried about what we might do. Ronalds nodded grimly. Fear makes them dangerous. They'll hit us harder than ever now, try to crush us before we can exploit this advantage further. He was right. Within hours, the Empire launched a massive bombardment campaign, targeting military installations and suspected resistance strongholds from high orbit. But their reduced accuracy at these distances meant many strikes missed their marks, and the resistance had already begun dispersing their forces. In the research facility, Maya worked with renewed determination. The Empire's ships are maintaining strict communication silence now, she reported. They're learning, adapting their tactics. But so are we. The modified weapons platforms were being continuously refined, incorporating data from each engagement. Resistance engineers found ways to make them more mobile, easier to conceal. Global manufacturing facilities, operating in hidden bunkers and underground complexes, increased production despite constant Empire attacks. But the Empire had another card to play. Zarin ordered the deployment of autonomous hunter-killer drones, designed to locate and destroy the modified weapons platforms. These smaller craft were harder to target, their shield systems operating on different principles. They're trying to force us to expose our positions, Ronalds explained to his commanders. Each time we fire on those drones, we risk revealing the location of our remaining platforms. The resistance adapted, developing new tactics. Teams began using decoy energy signatures to draw out the hunter-killer drones, setting up ambushes using conventional weapons. The streets of cities worldwide became battlegrounds in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Commander Vel, watching the humans adapt and overcome each new Imperial tactic, grew increasingly concerned. Admiral, these humans, they're unlike any species we've encountered. Their technological innovation rate is extraordinary. Zarin's response was cold. Then we will simply have to accelerate our timeline. Prepare the Planet Cracker. The Planet Cracker, the Empire's ultimate weapon of planetary destruction, had never failed to break a species' will to resist. The mere threat of its use had caused countless civilizations to surrender. But as Vel watched the massive weapon platform begin its deployment sequence, he wondered if even this would be enough to break humanity's spirit. On Earth, the Resistance celebrated their victories while preparing for the Empire's inevitable counterattack. The modified weapons platforms had proven their worth, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Empire's resources were vast, their technology still far superior in most areas. Colonel Ronalds stood in the command center, studying reports from resistance cells around the world. The Empire's bombardment had destroyed several major cities, but human forces had managed to shoot down dozens of ships. The cost was horrific, but humanity had proven something crucial: the Empire could be hurt. We've bloodied their nose, he told his assembled officers. Now they'll come at us with everything they have. But we've shown everyone, ourselves included, that they're not gods. They're just another enemy that can be fought. That can be beaten. The Resistance began focusing on hit-and-run tactics, using their modified weapons to disable Empire ships before quickly relocating. Each successful strike provided more data for Dr. Patel's team to analyze, leading to further refinements in their attack strategies. But the biggest challenge lay ahead. As the massive form of the planet Cracker emerged from hyperspace, its shadow falling across the moon like an eclipse, humanity faced its greatest test yet. The Empire was done playing games, they were ready to demonstrate the full extent of their destructive capability. The war for Earth was entering its most desperate phase, and the next few days would determine whether humanity's first victory against the Empire would be its last, or if it would mark the beginning of a revolution that would shake the foundations of imperial power throughout the galaxy. As night fell over the ruins of New York, Ronalds received word of the planet Cracker's arrival. He stood at a broken window, watching distant explosions illuminate the horizon like strange lightning. Humanity had bloodied the Empire's nose, but now they would face the full fury of a wounded giant. "Send word to all commands," he ordered, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Operation Thunderstrike was just the beginning. Now we show them what humanity does when its back is against the wall. The Empire was about to learn that their greatest mistake wasn't in underestimating humanity's technology, it was in underestimating humanity's will to survive. The real war was just beginning. Earth united. The planet Cracker hung in space like a metallic spider, its massive form eclipsing the moon. Nearly twice the size of the Dominion Ascendant, the weapon platform bristled with energy projectors and gravitational manipulation arrays. Its very presence seemed to distort the space around it, a testament to the incomprehensible power contained within its core. In the underground command center beneath the Appalachians, Dr. Maya Patel studied the first detailed scans of the weapon with growing horror. "The energy readings are off the scale," she reported to the assembled leadership. "It's not just a conventional weapon, it's designed to destabilize planetary cores." Colonel Ronalds leaned forward, his face illuminated by the holographic display. "How long before it's fully operational?" "Based on current power-up sequences. 48 hours, maybe less." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire wasn't just threatening to defeat humanity, they were preparing to destroy Earth itself. The modified weapons that had proven so effective against their ships would be useless against a device of this magnitude. Lieutenant Edwards spoke up from his station. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from resistance cells worldwide. Everyone's seeing this thing. People are panicking." Before Ronalds could respond, the main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. Admiral Zarin's face appeared, his expression colder than ever. "People of Earth," he began, "your recent acts of defiance have forced us to accelerate your species' termination. The planet Cracker will render your world uninhabitable within hours of activation. However, we are not without mercy. Surrender now, accept complete subjugation, and we will spare your planet. You have 24 hours to comply." As the transmission ended, Dr. Sarah Chen burst into the room. "Colonel, you need to see this. We've decoded more of their technical data about the planet Cracker. It's not just a weapon, it's their weakness." The next hour was a flurry of activity as Sarah and Maya presented their findings. The planet Cracker's immense power requirements meant it had to maintain a direct energy feed from multiple support ships. This created a complex network of power transmission beams, a network that might be vulnerable to the same quantum disruption principles they'd used against the Empire's shields. "But we'd need to hit multiple points simultaneously," Maya explained, highlighting key nodes in the power network. "More precisely than anything we've attempted before. And we'd need many more modified weapons platforms than we currently have." Ronald studied the data, his mind racing. "How many platforms?" "At least 50, all firing in perfect synchronization. And we'd need to get them into orbital positions we don't currently control." "Then we need help," Ronalds decided. He turned to Edwards. "Get me a secure channel to every major resistance cell on Earth. It's time to go all in." What followed was unprecedented in human history. Former enemies became allies, pooling resources and sharing technology. Chinese stealth submarines surfaced at American ports, loaded with rare earth materials needed for the modified weapons. Russian aerospace engineers worked alongside Japanese scientists to develop orbital delivery systems. Indian computer experts collaborated with Brazilian quantum physicists to refine the targeting algorithms. The Empire, believing their planet cracker had broken humanity's spirit, misinterpreted this reduction in surface attacks as submission. Commander Vell, however, remained suspicious. "Admiral," he reported, "our sensors are detecting unusual movement patterns globally. The humans appear to be coordinating something." Zarin dismissed the concern. "Let them scheme. Once the planet cracker is fully charged, their plans will mean nothing." But humanity was far from beaten. In hidden facilities around the world, the modified weapons platforms were being mass-produced with unprecedented efficiency. Each nation contributed what they could: materials, expertise, manpower. The resistance had become a global movement, transcending borders and old rivalries. Dr. Patel led an international team of scientists working to enhance the quantum disruption effect. The power beams feeding the planet cracker operate on similar principles to their shield technology, she explained during a global briefing. If we can disrupt them all at once, the feedback could destroy the entire weapon. Colonel Ronalds coordinated with space agencies worldwide to plan the orbital insertion of their weapons platforms. They would need to hijack Empire transport signatures to slip their devices into position, a dangerous gambit that would require perfect timing. The plan was designated Operation Unified Sky. It would require coordination between forces scattered across the globe, all working in perfect synchronization. The margin for error was zero. Sarah Chen worked with quantum computing experts to develop a new targeting system. "The Empire's overconfidence is their weakness," she explained. "They never bothered to encrypt their power transmission frequencies because they never imagined anyone could interfere with them." As the deadline approached, humanity's preparations accelerated. Underground factories worked around the clock. Civilian volunteers risked their lives to transport components past Empire patrols. Every person, every nation had a role to play. In orbit, the planet cracker's power-up sequence continued. Energy beams from dozens of support ships fed into its massive core, creating a web of deadly light around the weapon. Empire sensors remained focused outward, watching for conventional attacks, blind to the true threat building below. 24 hours before the Empire's deadline, Operation Unified Sky began. Disguised as debris and failed satellites, the modified weapons platforms were secretly moved into position. Each one had to maintain radio silence, using only passive sensors to avoid detection. Commander Veld noticed increased energy signatures from the surface but attributed them to civilian power systems. The humans' coordination had achieved what their technology alone could not, they had hidden their preparations in plain sight. Colonel Ronalds relocated to a hardened command center in Antarctica, one of the few places where the Empire's orbital surveillance had blind spots. From there, he could coordinate the global effort without detection. "All teams report ready," Edwards announced as the final platforms achieved position. "Quantum synchronization is holding steady across all units." Maya's voice came through clear on the secure channel. "Power signatures from the planet cracker are approaching critical levels. If we're going to do this, it has to be now." Ronalds took a deep breath, knowing humanity's future hung on what happened in the next few minutes. "Send the go code. All units execute on my mark." Across the globe, resistance fighters tensed at their controls. In orbit, 50 weapons platforms powered up simultaneously, their energy signatures hidden by the planet cracker's own massive power readings. "Empire ships maintaining standard patrol patterns," Edwards reported. "They haven't detected anything." Ronalds keyed his global command channel. "All units, fire." The modified weapons fired as one, their quantum disruption pulses targeting the power beams feeding the planet cracker. For a moment, space itself seemed to shudder as competing energy fields collided. Aboard the Dominion Ascendant, alarms blared. "Admiral!" Vell shouted, "multiple energy disruptions detected." The power network is destabilizing. Zarin lunged forward in his command chair. Impossible. Reroute power through secondary nodes. But it was too late. The quantum disruption spread through the power beams like lightning through a web, creating a cascade of failures that the Empire's automated systems couldn't contain. The planet Cracker's core began to overload, its massive power requirements becoming its undoing. All ships, emergency withdrawal. Zarin commanded, but the order came too late for many of the support vessels. The feedback from the collapsing power network overwhelmed their shields, turning them into expanding balls of plasma. The planet Cracker itself began to break apart, its superstructure torn apart by competing gravitational forces. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface, a new star briefly blooming in the day sky. In command centers around the world, celebrations erupted. Humanity had not only survived but had destroyed the Empire's ultimate weapon. More importantly, they had done it together, proving that their differences were far outweighed by their common strength. But Colonel Ronalds and his senior staff knew this wasn't the end. The Empire had lost its planet Cracker, but their main fleet remained intact. Admiral Zarin, humiliated by this second defeat, would not rest until Earth was destroyed or subjugated. "They'll come at us with everything now," Ronalds told his global command staff. "No more games, no more ultimatums. Just raw fury and overwhelming force." Maya nodded grimly. "But now we know they can be beaten. And we're stronger together than we've ever been." As reports of the planet Cracker's destruction spread, something unprecedented happened. People around the world, regardless of nationality or creed, celebrated as one. Old hatreds and rivalries seemed petty in the face of what they had accomplished together. The Empire had sought to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had forged it into something stronger than ever before. Earth was united, not by conquest or treaty, but by the shared will to survive, to fight, to triumph against impossible odds. As the sun set on humanity's greatest victory yet, preparations were already beginning for the final battle to come. The Empire would return with their full might, determined to erase this stain on their perfect record of conquest. But Earth would be ready. United, determined, and armed with the knowledge that even the mightiest empire could be wounded, humanity prepared to fight for its very existence. The final battle for Earth was about to begin. The final stand. The destruction of the planet Cracker had bought Earth precious time, 72 hours of relative calm as the Empire regrouped. In the skies above Earth, the remnants of Admiral Zarin's fleet had withdrawn to the dark side of the moon, maintaining a defensive posture while awaiting reinforcements. Colonel Mike Ronalds stood in the newly established Global Defense Command Center, carved deep into the bedrock beneath the Swiss Alps. The facility represented humanity's unity in the face of extinction, a combination of technologies and expertise from every major nation on Earth. The main chamber hummed with activity as representatives from various resistance cells coordinated their preparations for the coming storm. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Lieutenant Edwards called out, his eyes fixed on the long-range sensors. Massive fleet movements approaching from all vectors. The tactical display lit up with hundreds of new contacts. The Empire was committing its full strength to Earth's destruction. Ships of all sizes emerged from hyperspace, cruisers, destroyers, and at their center, something new. A vessel that dwarfed even the Dominion Ascendant materialized in high orbit, its hull gleaming with the same obsidian sheen as the rest of the Empire's ships, but marked with gold trim that designated it as the personal flagship of the Imperial Grand Fleet. Dr. Maya Patel's voice crackled through the command channel. "Colonel, preliminary scans of the new vessel show energy readings unlike anything we've seen before. They've modified their shield systems. Our current quantum disruption techniques won't be effective." "How many ships total?" Ronalds asked, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Over 500 capital ships," Edwards reported. "Plus support craft and fighter squadrons. They're deploying in attack formation." A hush fell over the command center as Admiral Zaren's image appeared on the main screen. But this time, he was not alone. Beside him stood a tall figure wearing ornate armor covered in symbols of imperial authority, Grand Admiral Nexus, the Empire's supreme military commander. "People of Earth," Nexus began, his voice carrying an authority that made even Zaren seem diminutive by comparison. "Your resistance has been noted. Your resourcefulness, impressive. But now you face the full might of the Empire. There will be no more negotiations, no more chances for surrender. Your world will be cleansed of all life, and your resistance will serve as an example to any who would dare challenge imperial rule." The transmission ended, replaced by tactical displays showing the Empire's fleet moving into attack positions. But humanity was ready. The 72 hours since the planet Cracker's destruction had not been spent idle. Dr. Sarah Chen stepped forward, pulling up schematics on the main display. "The modifications to our orbital defense grid are complete. The quantum disruption technology has been integrated into a network of satellites, each one capable of generating a localized defense field. It won't stop their weapons entirely, but it should reduce their effectiveness." "And the offensive capabilities?" Ronalds asked. Maya nodded to her colleague. "We've adapted our shield-breaking technology based on data from the Planet Cracker operation. The new version is more efficient, requiring less energy and offering greater range. But their upgraded shields will be a problem." "Then we adapt," Ronald stated firmly. "It's what humans do best." The command center erupted into activity as final preparations were made. The United Armies of Earth had spent days positioning their forces, establishing a layered defense that combined conventional weapons with their newly developed technologies. In orbit, automated defense platforms powered up, their systems linked to control centers scattered across the globe. On the surface, modified anti-aircraft batteries tracked Empire ship movements, while squadrons of fighters, enhanced with salvaged alien technology, prepared for launch. Commander Vel, watching the humans' preparations from the Dominion Ascendant, felt a growing unease. "Admiral Zaren, the humans' defensive formations, they're unlike anything in our tactical database. They're still adapting, still innovating." "It doesn't matter," Zaren replied, though his voice carried a hint of uncertainty. "With the Grand Fleet's arrival, their fate is sealed." The battle began without warning. Empire ships opened fire simultaneously, their energy weapons painting the sky with deadly light. Earth's orbital defense grid activated, the quantum disruption fields absorbing some of the impact, but the sheer volume of fire overwhelmed many of the satellites. "First line of defense is holding at 60%. Edwards reported as explosions bloomed in orbit. "Enemy fighters approaching atmosphere." Ronalds keyed his global command channel. "All units, engage at will. Show them what humanity can do." Earth's defenders responded with everything they had. Modified weapons platforms targeted Empire capital ships while fighters engaged their alien counterparts in savage dogfights through the upper atmosphere. The sky itself seemed to burn as energy weapons, missiles, and exotic technologies turned near-Earth orbit into an apocalyptic battlefield. In her research facility, Maya worked frantically with her team, analyzing combat data in real time. "Their new shields are operating on rotating frequencies," she reported. "But there's a pattern. If we can synchronize our attacks." A massive explosion rocked the facility as an Empire bombardment struck nearby. Sarah steadied herself against a console. "We need to work faster. The orbital defense grid won't hold forever." Above the Earth, the battle raged with unprecedented fury. Empire ships pressed their attack, their superior numbers beginning to tell despite humanity's technological innovations. But each lost human ship, each defeated defense platform, extracted a price in Imperial vessels and crews. Grand Admiral Nexus, watching from his flagship, frowned at the mounting losses. "These humans, their tactics are unpredictable. They're using our own technology against us in ways we never considered." Commander Vel, who had transferred to the Grand Admiral's staff, spoke up. "Sir, I've studied these humans. Their strength isn't in their technology, it's in their adaptability, their refusal to accept defeat. The more we push them, the more innovative they become." In the Alps Command Center, Maya's voice suddenly cut through the chaos. "Colonel. We've cracked it. Their new shield system, it's not just defensive. They're using it to coordinate their attacks. If we can disrupt it, we can throw their entire battle network into chaos." Ronalds finished. "How long to implement?" "Minutes to modify the disruption field generators." "But sir, we'd need to get close to the Grand Admiral's flagship. It's controlling the entire network." Ronald studied the tactical display, noting how the massive Imperial vessel hung back from the main battle, protected by layers of supporting ships. A plan began to form, dangerous, possibly suicidal, but potentially decisive. "Lieutenant Edwards, get me the Phantom Squadron." The Phantom Squadron was humanity's elite fighter unit, their ships modified with a combination of human stealth technology and reverse-engineered Empire systems. Their pilots were the best Earth had to offer, drawn from air forces around the world. Squadron leader Kira Chen, Sarah's younger sister, responded immediately. "Phantom standing by, Colonel. Just tell us where you need us." The plan was audacious. While Earth's remaining defenses launched an all-out attack to draw Imperial attention, the Phantom Squadron would slip through the chaos, carrying a specially modified quantum disruption device. They would only get one shot at the flagship's command and control systems. "All units, prepare for maximum effort," Ronalds ordered. "Commit everything we have. Show them humanity's final stand." The battle reached new levels of intensity as Earth's forces pressed their attack. Empire ships found their carefully coordinated formations disrupted by unexpected attack vectors and unconventional tactics. Humans had learned from weeks of combat, turning their inferior technology and desperate innovation into advantages the Empire struggled to counter. Aboard his flagship, Grand Admiral Nexus watched with growing concern as his forces took increasingly heavy losses. "Impossible, they're supposed to be primitives, barely capable of space flight. How are they doing this?" Commander Vell stood at his station, monitoring the battle, when his sensors detected something unusual, a flicker of movement in a sector that showed clear on standard scans. "Sir. Unknown contacts approaching from Vector 7. The Phantom Squadron had reached attack range, their modified ships nearly invisible to Imperial sensors." Squadron leader Chen's voice was calm over the secure channel. "Target in sight. All units, execute attack plan Delta." The squadron's ships launched their payload, the modified disruption device, before breaking formation and engaging the flagship's escort ships in a series of savage dogfights. The device itself, small enough to evade point defense systems, attached to the flagship's hull and activated. The effect was immediate and devastating. The quantum disruption pulse, calibrated to the exact frequency of the Empire's battle network, cascaded through their entire fleet. Ships lost shield coordination, weapon systems misfired, and the carefully orchestrated Imperial attack dissolved into chaos. "Now," Ronalds commanded. "All units, concentrate fire on designated targets." Earth's defenders struck with everything they had left. Empire ships, their defenses compromised and coordination shattered, began to fall. The mighty Imperial fleet, which had never known defeat in centuries of conquest, was being beaten by the very primitives they had dismissed as inferior. Grand Admiral Nexus stood on his bridge, watching in disbelief as his fleet crumbled. "Order a retreat. All ships, emergency withdrawal." But Commander Vell had finally had enough. Drawing his sidearm, he aimed it at the Grand Admiral. "No. You still don't understand. These humans, they've shown us something we forgot centuries ago. The power of innovation, of fighting for survival instead of conquest. We've become complacent, relying on technological superiority while losing the drive that built our empire. The battle's outcome was decided in those chaotic minutes. Without coordinated shields and weapons, the Imperial fleet was vulnerable to the very techniques and technologies they had dismissed as primitive. Human forces, fighting with desperate courage and coordinated purpose, pressed their advantage. Admiral Zarin, watching from the Dominion Ascendant as ship after ship fell to human attacks, finally understood the magnitude of the Empire's mistake. They had assumed technological superiority guaranteed victory, forgetting that necessity and determination could drive innovation beyond established limits. As the remaining Empire ships retreated in disarray, leaving their burning hulks as testament to humanity's victory, Colonel Ronalds stood in the command center, surrounded by cheering staff. But his expression remained serious. They had won this battle, but he knew it was only the beginning. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Secure any damaged Empire ships. Download their databases, salvage their technology. Humanity just proved we can beat them, now we need to be ready for what comes next." The Empire had arrived at Earth expecting an easy conquest of primitives. They left having learned a costly lesson: technological superiority means nothing when faced with the combined will, innovation, and determination of humanity fighting for its survival. In the days that followed, as Earth began to rebuild, the story of humanity's victory spread through the galaxy. Other subjugated species, hearing how primitives had bloodied the Empire's nose, began to question their own submission. A spark had been lit, one that would eventually grow into a flame of rebellion across the stars. And on Earth, humanity looked to the stars with new purpose. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger, more united, and with access to technologies that would revolutionize their civilization. The Empire had sought to conquer Earth. Instead, they had given humanity the tools and motivation to begin their own journey into the galaxy. Colonel Ronalds stood at a viewport in the Alps Command Center, watching the sun rise over a scarred but unconquered Earth. Beside him, Dr. Maya Patel studied data from captured Empire ships while Lieutenant Edwards coordinated cleanup operations. "They'll be back," Edwards said quietly. "The Empire won't accept this defeat." Ronalds nodded. "Yes, they will. But next time, we'll be ready. Humanity isn't just fighting for survival anymore, we're fighting for our place among the stars." The Empire had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed that humanity's technological inferiority made them weak. Instead, they had learned that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their weapons or machines, but in their unwavering spirit, their ability to unite against common threats, and their relentless drive to overcome any obstacle in their path. The war for Earth was over. Humanity's journey to the stars was just beginning.